You're listening to the Soft Issues podcast, brought to you by Foundation Fit and Frequency Cycleworks. On today's episode, Wei, Matt and I discuss funerals, Matt's gym experiences, and the philosophy of bike maintenance.
Hey up, and welcome to Soft Issues.
Oh my god, that's the first time you've actually introduced the podcast.
Well, I panicked. I've pressed go, and I couldn't bear to be any silence.
The silence. The horrible, horrible silence.
Can't do it. I'm the person that would laugh at a funeral.
Oh.
Actually, I have laughed at funerals. Plural.
That's why I don't go to funerals. Because I just couldn't keep it in. Plus, if I walked into a church, I'd probably burst into flames.
Has anyone been to a happy funeral?
Happy
Funeral.
Depends who died, doesn't it? And how well they were liked.
Family member. Like, why
Or
would
do you mean
go
like a celebration?
Yeah.
Oh, like a wake.
What's
That's what a wake is. A wake is like you have the funeral and then you have the wake, which is like everyone's sad and crying. And then you have the wake where you just get drunk and celebrate the person's life.
Oh.
Or
as
you
far
go
as-
down the railway club and cry into a pint of northern dishwater whilst eating really dodgy canapes.
I wouldn't want to go to a funeral you've been to.
No.
Sounds awful.
Anyway, that's quite fitting because this week was supposedly the most depressing week of the year.
Blue
Is
Monday.
that why?
Statistically.
Blue Monday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though Monday was beautiful.
Brought to you
Yeah.
by the makers of Black Friday.
Yeah.
Blue Monday.
Buy more.
Buy more stuff and make yourself happy.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but I think it statistically it's supposed to be like the greyest week. When everyone starts breaking all their resolutions and the reality of January sets in.
I thought that was January the 2nd
Oh, maybe.
when everyone starts breaking their resolutions. They go for a
Hey,
jog.
resolutions are going strong in my gym.
Really?
Right? I turned up yesterday to go swimming, 11:30, middle of the day. Monday's my Sunday, so before anyone gives me any heat for not working on Monday. Like, thought the pool would be dead. It was not. There was an army of OAPs doing water aerobics. And I kid you not, right? This lad who was lifeguarding, he'd obviously had a big night. So I'd finished my swim, and like he was out of his chair, and there's like a bin by the wall, like going into the door into the changing rooms in my gym. Lifeguard had his head in the bin.
Oh,
I was like, mate, you've had a heavy night, haven't you? No saving lives for you today. So, but yeah, resolutions are going strong in my pool.
Was it just
there
the
you go.
was it the OAPs that did it to him?
There was
So,
about
like,
30 of them. There was an actual army.
Was the pool at that point? Was it basically
There was
just
waves.
urine?
There was waves. You must have been seasick. But honestly, they were doing like aerobics, like water aerobics to blooming techno remixes of Cyndi Lauper.
Wow,
It was surreal.
sounds a lot like all their doctors were like, this is the last ditch attempt at staying alive for the next couple of years.
Yeah,
Get some exercise.
actually, yeah, Bee Gees, they were on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Staying alive.
But yeah, I was like, I've only just joined this gym. I was like, this place is weird. Anyway.
I've never been. I should say I've never been to a gym. I don't think I've ever been to a gym, but
You can't tell.
barely lift stuff. But
Pushing pencils.
all the times I've ever walked past a gym and looked in, I've thought, I wouldn't want to go in there. That looks weird. Find it really strange. I guess just because I've always ridden bikes or done outdoor sports, that going to a room somewhere to exercise in front of loads of other people just seems really weird to me.
See, no, it's not in front of other people.
Why would you go to the gym
cares
then?
what you're doing.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the point of going there? Why have they
'Cause
got all the
people
big mirrors?
are so self-absorbed that all they care about
That's
is
why they've got all the
themselves.
big mirrors.
How do you think I go?
yeah.
You're
If
just
you
like,
get-
oh yeah.
Exactly.
Mate, don't joke. Like, if you go to a gym, like the amount of selfie cams and selfie sticks, just like
Must have been-
everywhere.
it
Mate,
be
people
crazy
turn up
now.
with tripods and
Really?
stands and
lights
lighting.
and- yeah,
It's mental.
it's mad.
Anyway, everyone should go to the gym. Don't let that put you off. Anyway, I'm hijacking this, aren't I?
Should ride bikes.
Yeah, this is another episode about going to the gym and strength training. But today we're actually going to talk about. Well, we're going to talk about Ev, weren't we?
We were.
Were we?
And then he turned up.
Isn't there something more interesting to talk about?
Well, we're going to talk about your servicing because you
Yeah,
adopt a
servicing.
slightly different method, not methodology, of booking people in and assessing bikes compared with the usual. If you turn up to
a bike shop,
they usually give you the bronze, silver, gold service. Which one do you want?
Yeah.
It's a bit like going to the car wash, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, oh, somehow all of your bike problems are going to be the same as everybody else's bike problems. I mean, a lot of them are, but if you don't triage, then I don't understand how you have to have time. You have to have time to, first of all, give me the bike.
So yeah, I think like if you give us a start by an intro, just like why that model is outdated, irrelevant, whatever you want to call it, and what is the better way of doing it.
It's like the fast food of bikes. It's sort of like, you can just people, because most of the time people want, or the shops just want to give somebody a price. They want to give somebody a ballpark so that they will bite, rather than say, oh, look, let me just have a look at this first of all, and then I'll let you know what the problems are and how much it's going to cost you. But if you don't do it that way, you always end up, it doesn't matter how many, I've worked in so many places where they try that system, and it doesn't matter what you tell the customer initially, because as soon as you get the bike, they've told you a bunch of stuff and said, oh, it needs this, it needs that, it needs this. And then the bike turns up and you're like, okay, it needs a bit more than all of that and then some. And then you've got to give them the bad news, which is like, it's going to cost more than you thought.
So I think expectations, like if you take the traditional bike shop model of like a gold, silver, bronze service, whatever, is that there will be some element of deconstructing your bike, some element of cleaning, and then reassembling.
Mostly cleaning, a lot of cleaning. Yeah, and that's something that I think a lot of people don't really consider, that in order to, it's like if you go to the doctor or something, they have to examine you first. You can't just tell them what's wrong with you, because that's the whole point. That's the reason that you went to the doctor, right?
I've Googled it.
Yeah. Oh, I've been on WebMD, and it looks
got
like
these three drugs.
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
I've gone down. That's what GPs do. But yeah, you have to triage it. You have to get the chance to have a bit of alone time with the bike, away from the customer, and actually like talk to it, give it a massage, check it out.
Wine it, dine it.
It's not Wagyu beef, mate.
Depends on the bike. But yeah, you've got to be, the whole point is they come to you because you're the expert. So if they come to you saying, oh, this is wrong with my bike, it's like, well, like, you don't know that for sure, because that's why you're here, right? So it's like if somebody comes to you guys, they'll complain about, I've got a pain in my knee, or my bum hurts, or my ankle or something, but 9 times out of 10, that's not the source of the problem. It's something else in the chain. Chain, get it?
But this like you go to a car garage. That's how car garages work, isn't it?
Yeah.
You book it in, and then they run their tests or whatever it is they do, and then they will give you a rundown of what he's doing. Yeah. But the bike industry has never really worked that way.
It's because bike shops are like they're kind of the peasant of the kind of mechanics industry, where people have so little respect for bike mechanics. They're just like, oh, it's such a simple thing. It can't be that hard. You just fix it. It's a 5-minute job. It's all this kind of stuff. And it's like, it's very rarely a 5-minute job.
But that's an interesting thing, right? So if it's a 5-minute job, how many years has it taken you to do that?
Exactly.
To learn to do that job in 5 minutes. Yeah. But also, you're bringing your £10,000 super bike into, a well-known chain of bike shops where, someone is getting paid $16,500 a year. The extra half is because they're a key holder. And, they're not getting paid well enough to, quite frankly, care about what they do to your £10,000 bike, right? So it's like taking your £100,000 Ducati to quick fit. Yeah. You just wouldn't do it, would you?
But I think that's where the disconnect is, where the bike industry has changed over the last 15 years or so, where the price of bikes has skyrocketed,
So
and it's just
ridiculous.
going up and up and up and up and up. But all the services around it haven't kind of figured out a different model of working yet, or people aren't quite au fait with like the different levels of servicing that are required. A bike's a bike is a bike, but they're not. It's not.
It's not. Never is.
Well, I think people don't like nuance either, do they? It's like, it's a bike, do this to it, that sort of thing. It's not like a finely tuned machine, which most modern superbikes are now.
Yeah, but
It's
it's like like everyone gets it in the car industry, right? Like if you have a Ferrari or Ducati, then you are going to take a little bit more time to think about where you're going to take it for a service.
Well, you're going to take it to the Ferrari garage, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Bikes don't really. There are a few places, but again, they usually dealers, and they will. There are, there will be an official service center for that make a bike, but in terms of whether their mechanics have the expertise or the experience to know what they're doing, that's another matter.
So
but what they do have is the ability to get the proprietary parts for those bikes, and that's how the car industry works. Everything is pretty much proprietary. I mean, it's not secretly. Most of the Ferrari parts are made by, another company, like usually VW or whoever it is, or Audi or something like that. But in terms of the way stuff just comes in a box and you just bolt it on, that's how cars work. And bikes are becoming a bit more like that. It's kind of so
I think that's the thing. It's like there's a disconnect in which has been kind of caught up within the car automotive industry, whereby, I just have to take it to the garage. I can't put it on ramps like my granddad used to do and do it himself. Like, I have to take it there. It's proprietary. I need a laptop to talk to my car.
You need the specific software and the specific dongle and the specific cable.
Whereas a bicycle is still, to most people, an object you can fix in your shed. It's like, bike's simple. I don't fix a bike, no worries. Yeah. And it's not, there hasn't been that kind of like catch up between the way people think about fixing, maintaining, however you want to call it, servicing their bikes, as there has been with cars or motorbikes, for instance. And I think that's where like the kind of the bell curve of complexity of bikes has just gone so steep in like very recent years.
Yeah.
It's 10 years ago, you never saw an integrated front end or internal cable routing. Now, you're more surprised if you do see something external. So I think like it's happened in such a short space of time that people haven't kind of caught up in the way of thinking that, this is what I need to do to maintain my bike.
Yeah.
I can't fiddle with it in my shed watching a video on YouTube. I might actually need someone with experience and kind of like the right tooling, the right environment to kind of actually make it
YouTube
work.
will have you believe that you can.
Yeah, but we know we don't believe everything on YouTube. So I think there's that. First off, is that kind of like disconnect between what is a bike service? What does a bike service entail?
Yeah,
and like it's worth actually paying to do it, get it done properly. Because you pay £10,000 for a bike.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why would you scrimp? You wouldn't scrimp on that with your car. So why would you scrimp on it with your bike? Like, have it working and purring, and give it to someone who's going to take care and attention to be able to know what to do with it, rather than going to a cookie cutter gold, silver, bronze service model.
A technician.
Well, definitions. Technician, engineer, mechanic.
I like the word engineer personally. I'm partial to the word engineer. But...
So that kind of old model doesn't really work anymore, and that this.
I mean, the thing is, that was a new model, and now it's a model that's becoming outmoded.
But it needs to catch up.
Yeah,
with the way
it has to be bespoke. Built. You want a bespoke service for anything, for like whether you're having a bike built for you, and so if somebody comes to you guys and they're first of all, everything's totally bespoke because they get the fit. You get your fit data, and then you go looking for bikes that will accommodate that fit, right? And that's the first part of the process. And then once you've got that, you can get the frame in, you can get the different parts in, everything, put it together. Servicing should be the same as that. It's got everything.
So what would be the ideal process then, of like start to finish for someone, like from initial contact to giving them a bike back? What would be the
in terms of servicing.
Yeah.
Well, first thing they've got to do is get in touch and then, describe in loose terms what their problem is and what they think might need doing. But then they've got to bring it to me, and I've got to see the bike. There's no point. Like they can write an essay about their issues and what. But again, just like the thing with like knee injuries or whatever, it's always usually there's something else going on in addition to what they think is the problem. And so without actually taking certain things apart, and usually a bunch of cleaning to check, so that kind of triage process is already maybe an hour or something, because you've got to like inspect stuff properly, and then only then can you write back to them and say, okay, these are the problems that your bike has. Here's a list of things that you need, because if you don't deal with this, something's going to break, like in the next month or next couple of months. And then here's a list of things like when you take a car for a service, here's a list of advisories, where it's like, you should probably do this. Or at least what I'll normally do is say, look, it's winter, right? There are certain bits that are going to wear out. Ride it through the winter, bring it to me in the spring, because those parts will be worn out by then, and then we can change it. There's no point in sort of like, you kind of want to avoid changing too many parts, maybe apart from like your chain or something, because you wouldn't want that to snap on you. But stuff before you're going to commute through the winter, or you're going to race through the winter, or whatever you're going to do. So then come spring, it's dirty, but it doesn't need cleaning because it's all coming off and going in the bin, and you're going to put new stuff on. So, but again, it's different for each bike, it's different for each person. Everybody rides different. Some people are just bike breakers. And you learn, the more you see their bikes, a couple of times you see their bikes in a row, you realise, okay, the level of wear to your bike is like twice the rate of a regular person. For some reason, some people just wear stuff out quicker. They grind gears more, they put more power out, whatever. So, but yeah, it's got to be bespoke for every person, and they've got to communicate. That's part of the difference between like your regular average bike shop and people like me, is that the communication between you and the customer is a lot more detailed and a lot more straight as well. You're not gonna just fob them off with some idea that it'll cost this much, but then by the time they come to paying the bill, they've realised that, well, you've got to pay for all these extra parts and stuff like that. I just try and give them the price up front as much as possible, but then
I guess it comes down to choices at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like if you've got like an old shopping bike and you just need a tyre replaced, then you can probably just go to a local bike shop and they'll do it. Whereas you're really looking after, nice bikes, top end bikes, bikes that people care about and want to have as their kind of vehicle to enjoy.
And they want them to last. Yeah. As well, and then there's this kind of analogy, which is like it's like expensive lingerie, an expensive bike. The lighter they get, the more delicate they are. They're highly. They're.
I wondered where this was going to go.
I had to get that in there somewhere. But they're things that are light and designed for racing and kind of thing. They are very they have a relatively short shelf life.
Do you have racing lingerie?
Yeah. Have you not? Did you not get that link I sent you?
I didn't want to click it.
Don't ever click anything that I send you. But the more expensive something, sometimes people think, oh well, it was really expensive. Why didn't it last that long? Why wasn't it really tough? It's like it was made to be light, high performance, but like the candle that burns twice as bright. It's like you've got to bear that in mind. So that's the thing. Some of these things they're very tough in ways that they're supposed to be, but delicate in other ways. You've got to treat them well. It's like a carbon frame is kind of super stiff. It takes your weight and everything like that. But if you look at it the wrong way, it'll crack.
Yeah, it's designed to withstand
to be strong in one direction.
Load in one direction and not in others. Yeah.
Yeah. But also, you don't have that many bikes in here all at once, do you? You tend to kind of work on just a couple of bikes at a time to make sure that you have that, you can give that bike.
I don't rush things. That's the difference between somebody like me and your average, bike shop, is that they're just trying to get through as much as possible.
Well, you're selling time, aren't you?
Yeah,
in a bike
exactly.
shop. It's like a general service takes 2 hours, a premium service takes 3 hours.
It's the worst way. That is the worst way to set your pricing based on time. Nobody has any idea how long something's going to take, because as soon as you start taking something apart and then something breaks, it's not because you broke it. It's because it was broken. You took it apart and suddenly you realise,
you cleaned it.
You cleaned it, and the only thing keeping it together was the dirt.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And so, all the bigger companies, I can name a few, but everybody knows who they are. They work on blocks of time, and it's just silly, really, because then they start complaining to their mechanics if something's taken longer than it's supposed to, but yet they're not going to charge the customer more because they've quoted the customer this, kind of thing. So I think time is a construct. You've got to give yourself the time, not only to actually do the job, but to actually think about stuff. Like I spend a lot of time just sitting around thinking, because then if you've gone through the scenarios in your head, and I think this happens in a sort of micro level as well. Every time I'm about to do something, there's a little thought process, which is, okay, I'm going to undo this bolt now. What happens then? Is there other stuff I have to think about? Rather than just jump in and just take. It's like I don't know if any of you guys, when you were kids, you used to take your toys apart. Did you do that? I used to do that all the time. And when you're a kid, you just because I was curious. I was I wanted to know how things worked. So that you just unscrew everything, you take it apart, and then all of a sudden you've got this it's like the meme of the guy with his motorcycle in bits. All it's like I didn't think about what order everything came in. So I'm always thinking that in my mind, even if it's in a really short space of time, it's like, if I undo do I know how to put this back before I
But
take it
essentially,
apart?
you're in the business of problem solving.
Exactly.
Right? Which is kind of, you never switch off. So, back in the day, sort of 50, 60, 70 odd years ago, your tools were your hands, and your tools are your hands.
Yeah.
But your the way you make money is in your mind.
Yeah.
Like, you're thinking about stuff even when you're not working on it. Like, you're problem solving when you're, say, in Domino's with a cat or whatever.
Just like the idea that I take my cat to Domino's. No, they come to me.
They
Matt.
come to
they
you.
come to me.
Yeah.
I have the cat.
You have the cat. You just don't have the pizza
in my arms when.
But
they
that's the thing,
pizza.
isn't it? It's like, you're rarely afforded kind of the ease and the luxury of being able to look at something and solve the problem then and there. It's like, same in bike fit. I think about, like, I'll have an epiphany a week after doing a bike fit and going, that wouldn't have that been a great idea.
Yeah.
And that ship
the worst
is
thing
well
is to
and
be
truly sailed.
Yeah, the worst thing is to be under pressure. So if you've got somebody you're fitting and they're there and they're asking those questions and you're regurgitating your blurb that you've been thinking about, and you've got, okay, I need to tell you this, I need to tell you that, I need to explain what it is I'm doing, and then they throw you a curveball because they ask you another question that's completely unrelated, and you're like, let me finish what I was trying to explain first. And it's a bit like somebody brings a bike to you and they're like, oh, can you do it while I wait? I'm like, that's the one thing no mechanic wants to hear. Can you do it while I wait? Like, I can do, but if you want to watch me hit your bike with a hammer, you can wait. But
which, by the way, is a legitimate
absolutely
bicycle maintenance
tool. I mean, if you don't get through a service without hitting it with a hammer at least once,
who even are
wrong.
you?
Exactly.
If you're a bike mechanic, you don't have a hammer. Then
no.
Don't Abbey Tools make like a titanium
mallet?
You got there are several
beautiful tool.
There are several blow tools that you need as a bike mechanic. There's a regular hammer, then you need like a peen hammer, like a ball peen thing, and then you need like a mallet, like a soft blow mallet. And you need there's a whole bunch of stuff.
This other one, right? It's titanium on one end and it's like rubberized on the other. It's well good. And it's like tiny.
We still talking about hammers.
Yeah. It's like anodized on. It's
been on the Ann Summers website.
Pretty good.
But you got like a drawer full of hammers then.
I've got at least 4 hammers.
I think our hammer is like the most used bike fit, other than a 4mm Allen key. The most used bike fit tool is a hammer.
Yeah, all those blooming Bontrager seat posts.
Yeah, if you bring a Trek to us, likelihood is it's going to get hit with a hammer.
It's part of the design.
It's a feature.
Yeah.
Hammer time.
Hammer time.
Oh.
Hammer, way more important than a torque wrench for a bike mechanic. Don't get me started on torque wrenches.
That's a separate podcast.
Yeah, we have to do a whole podcast on.
So what are common things that people want to look out for that might indicate that they might need to come and see someone like you and get their bike looked at?
Brakes don't work, gears don't work, wheels are wobbly.
This time of year.
This time of year.
Yeah, this time of year.
No, but just things like, sort of sounds, noises, like
Creaks.
things to check.
Yeah.
Like
Like,
what are we looking at?
thing is, a lot of people tend to have noises and creaks in the winter because it gets colder. What happens when it gets cold?
My bones creak.
Your bones creak. Your bike can do the same thing. Things contract in the cold. Things expand in the heat. So you might have noises that just like they rear their ugly head in the winter that you'd never get in the summer because everything's like expanded and like sort of filled all those little spaces. But in the winter things get cold and they can contract, and then you can have, or if you're riding in bad weather, you tend to get crap, filling up all the gaps anywhere that's not hermetically sealed on a bike, and most places are not hermetically sealed on a bike. You get grit, you get dirt, you get dust, whatever, and eventually it gets in there when it's wet, and then it dries out, and then all of a sudden you start hearing weird clicks and kind of all sorts of like.
So should people be cleaning their bikes more now at this time of the year?
But my word, not with a pressure washer.
Oh God, no. Well,
Not with a pressure washer you'd clean your patio with.
No, not with that pressure washer. Just don't spray it directly at the places that move. You can use a pressure washer on all the bits that aren't supposed to move. On the frame, mainly just keep to the frame. Just don't spray it in your bottom bracket or on your wheel hubs or anything like that.
And that certainly is the case for degreaser.
Yeah, that's another thing. People will use degreaser like it's like tap water, and it's only supposed to go in certain places. And that's the thing. Okay, don't do as I say, not as I do, because there's ways just like examining my cross bike and it's covered in crap.
It's a cross bike.
But it's a cross bike and it goes off road basically every day on the way to work and the way home. And yes, it's dirty. Yes, it makes noises. Yes, the brakes squeak. Yes, the chain is covered in crap. But don't press the brake. Look, I know how much throw they have. All right, I'm used to it. But I know all the.
It's conscious.
It actually,
The state of your bike is a conscious choice.
Yeah. Plus, I know what to do. I know what's wrong with it. I know how to fix it. I'm putting it off like most people shouldn't. But the thing is, for the most part, I will, if I have the time over the weekend, I will clean that bike every weekend. And that's what people should be doing in the winter, because they think, you could just, it's going to get dirty again, right? That's what a lot of people think. Well, it's just going to get dirty.
Yeah, but
again.
that's like saying I'm not going to wash because I'm just going to smell again.
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't.
You're
do
still
that,
going to
would
wash.
you? You're still going to wash.
And the main reason to wash your bike, to clean your bike, is not for it to be gleaming. It's so that while you're doing it, you are looking at it, and you will spot. If you've got a crack in your frame, you're not going to know about it until the winter's over, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So if you actually clean it routinely and you kind of wipe things down, you kind of keep an eye out, and you can see.
But that's insane. It's like the amount of times we have to phone customers saying they've got a crack in their frame.
Yeah.
Like back in the day in the bike shop, in the bad old days of the bike shop, it's more often than you would think.
And that maintenance is 99% cleaning.
Yeah.
Because you will, and if you do it regularly, you will spot things that are wrong long before they become an issue. Now you're at the side of the road, miles from home. Something broke because you didn't inspect it, you didn't check it properly. It's like getting punctures. If you check your tyres before and after a long ride and make sure that you haven't got any pieces of glass or grit or whatever sticking into the rubber, you flick them out with a little pin or whatever. That's what's saving you punctures, not buying tyres made of leather or something, to try and protect from punctures. It's all about inspecting.
And it's all pretty small stuff, isn't it? Like tyres, like you were saying, brake pads.
Yeah.
Like the thickness of your disc rotors.
Disc brakes are probably the worst culprit because you can't see the pads unless you really look
you
at
can
it.
if you drop the wheel out.
Yeah, if you drop the wheel out, but most people are not doing that. They're just riding and riding and riding. and then they're wondering why. Oh, my brakes feel a bit softer. You know, it's because your pads are down to the metal.
Yeah. So pads, thickness of your rotors.
Thickness of your rotors.
For road riders, it's a relatively new thing, and so it just takes a bit of time for people to recognise what needs to be done.
And that's why regular servicing is the order of the day. It's good to have a schedule and say, okay, every 6 months at least. Depends on the bike, you know. Obviously, if you're racing, you're probably going to want to take your bike for a service a bit more regularly. And those services are going to be cheaper because they're more regular. They're going to be quicker. They're going to cost you less. But it's more about like inspecting and making sure, okay, no, everything's good. I can give you a time frame. It's like you go to the dentist. When you leave the dentist, they tell you, I want to see you in 6 months, right? Or I want to see you in 3 months.
6 years later.
6 years later, yeah. Well, in my case, is it 30 years? It's been 30 years.
Oh my God. You're doing all right though.
I haven't got a single filling. I've got one cap, which is 30 years old. The last time I went to the dentist.
Nice.
Everything's fine. Anyway, but yeah, it's like that's another part of it is scheduling it in. Just like thinking of it like a car service, like every so and so miles. Like it might not be time. It might be 6 months, but it might also be okay. You do a lot of miles, so if you're doing, let's say, 10,000 miles a year, I want to see your bike every 3,500 miles. You know, let's have a look at it. Let's check it out. Let's make sure that, because gears slip, brakes need cleaning and things like that. And
it's kind of but this is the difficulty about all of these kind of regular maintenance jobs that need to be done, whether it's on your body or your bike. So it just goes against our human nature to be wanting to do this. This isn't like doing prehab. Nobody does prehab. Everyone goes for rehab.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, do you want a 150 quid bill or a 600 quid bill when you take your bike for a service? Because, you know, if you take your bike for a service where it basically consists of an inspection, maybe a new chain, maybe some new brake pads, or you have to change your whole drivetrain because you left it too long, and all of a sudden, you know, it adds up and adds up, you know.
Well, I guess that's why we're doing this podcast in a way, just to remind people that
decisions have consequences.
Look after your...
Well, that sounds ominous.
Not my words, mate. The words of Rafael Nadal.
Is he still injured?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, look after your bike and it will look after you.
Exactly.
There we go. So...
Any parting wisdom, Ev, before we...
I was going to say, I think we talked about it on last week's podcast as well, though. Indoor bikes also need maintenance, as much as outdoor bikes, for different reasons. Like
Sweat.
Yeah, seen some stuck seat posts.
There is a stuck seat post that we have to deal with.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
And also, after a period of riding indoors, get your bar tape off and inspect your handlebars.
Bar tape.
Because I've seen some stuff whereby sweat has corroded the aluminium, and you don't want those handlebars to snap on a descent.
Is that what happened to Van der Poel that time when his bar snapped? Was it just 20 minutes of really intense sweating?
No, I think he was just summoning the hammer of Thor, and he just got some like epic strength and just snapped him.
You see when he pulled the boa off his shoe?
And the world champs.
Yeah.
Monster.
Like that's like a metal wire.
It's like the Hulk.
Yeah.
Just like the red mist comes down.
Suspicious.
It's just like
suspicious.
Yeah, mate.
Next level.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how he goes that fast without he pedals, but whatever. It's a story for another day. But yeah, check your indoor bikes as well.
Yeah.
For like headset bearings.
If you've got black bar tape, it probably needs changing. Because black bar tape is the favourite, but it's the one that everyone's like, well, you can't tell, you can't see the dirt. It's dirty. Trust me, it's dirty. It needs changing. It's a good thing about white bar tape. I always used to have white bar tape when I was racing because it's really obvious when it's like, okay, I got to change this now.
Didn't you have to change it like every race then?
Nah. Not in the summer. It was all right. I used to use mitts. It didn't get too sweaty.
White mitts.
White mitts. Yeah, I did. Or red. They're red now after all the crashes. I've got them somewhere.
But yeah, bar tape, and then other thing for indoor bikes, chain and cassette wear.
Yeah.
If you swap in between a direct drive
Yeah,
and
definitely.
your regular wheel, check your chain.
And use your small ring.
And use your small ring, because they're cheaper to replace than
Yeah.
the big ring. The Yorkshireman's approach. Always thinking.
That's why we love you, Matt.
I say I'm a river to my people.
Enough about butts. So if the listeners have any questions about bike servicing, where can they find you, Ev?
FrequencyCycleworks.com. Almost forgotten the name of my own company. FrequencyCycleworks.com. Instagram @FrequencyCycleworks as well. You can ask me questions on there if you want, but you can email me as well. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Sounds good. So we'll, hopefully everyone has a good ride. And we'll see
Check
you.
your bikes, folks.
Check your bikes.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week for some more fun and games.
If you have any questions related to what we talked about today, get in touch on Instagram. It's @SoftIssuesPod. We're also on YouTube, YouTube/@SoftIssuesPod, and join the conversation. Are you bike fit curious? You can find Wei and Matt online at foundation.fit, and myself, frequencycycleworks.com, for custom bikes, hand-built wheels, upgrades, and servicing. And as always, thanks so much for listening. See you next time. Go ride your bike.